Donald Trump, Elon Musk taking a machete to the federal government, and they started with the odious USAID. Is pissing all the right people off, and we're going to give you all of the glorious overreactions from the left, including Joy Reid. Also, the whole stare down with Canada and Mexico over tariffs didn't really amount to much, except winning. Trump did a bit of a victory lap. So should you. We're winning right now. Enjoy it. Also, finally, when people in the executive branch of government think they're in charge and think they can tell the president what to do, that's called a coup. And Trump is correcting that. But people on the left, people at the FBI, people in the media, they don't quite get it. We're going to correct their thinking coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to correct some people's thinking. Get in line, people. Thanks for watching our live stream today. Very excited to come from you live from the Pacific Northwest in an undisclosed location, but it's lovely here, and I appreciate you bearing with our shifting schedule this week. Thanks for being here, and thanks for liking and subscribing wherever you're watching. It means a lot to us. Have you seen that there's news out there from economists, you know, the experts? They're forecasting a depression, not a recession, a depression by the year 2030. See, it's this perfect storm of Social Security and Medicare hitting a breaking point with the largest generation about to hit retirement. Now, a smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. Pair that with a growing national debt and rising cost of living, and, well, that's why they're predicting a pretty big problem on the horizon. So what are you going to do right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. See, this is the kind of diversity we like. Birch Gold is going to help you transition. It's also one of the transitions we like. Help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, real physical gold. And it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. So protect your future today. Text Larry, that's my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold. And you'll also get a copy of The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era. That includes a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation. We're only here to give you information. Text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. Do that today. Thank you. So I'm sure you've seen a bunch of screaming and histrionics and people going nuts over the Trump administration freezing any grants distributed by this organization called USAID, USAID. You've seen this, right? People are freaking out. It's like suddenly the rockets and satellites are going to fall from space. It's like this thing has been keeping the infrastructure for electric grid together. We can't live without USAID, right? You've probably never even heard of it. So what is this giant slush fund in Washington, D.C.? Well, spokesperson for the White House yesterday confronted the very reporters who have been delivering misinformation to average American citizens who really don't have time to pay attention to what USAID does. Well, Caroline Leavitt, she explained some of the things that USAID has been doing under the Biden administration. Take a watch.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Boy, she is very, very good at that, especially that. I don't know about you, but I don't want my American tax dollars going to pay for this crap. Plain spoken, and echoing what all of us are thinking when we hear all that stuff. I just love it. $75,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland. Can I just be clear here? I used to work in musical theater, okay, on big Broadway productions. Let me just explain something. Every musical is a DEI musical. I love this. Hey, we'll give you $75,000 to produce a musical, but There's a catch. You got to make it diverse and inclusive. It's insane. And what was that? A transgender opera? Yeah, here's a grant to put on an opera, but some of the performers have to be in drag. Have you seen an opera lately? I'm pretty sure all the performers are in drag. I promise you, they don't need your assistance in putting on a transgender opera. Well, naturally, all the right people are pissed off about this. Their hair's on fire and they're screaming. They're screaming like terrorists. Ooh, I hit that one on the nose. Here she is, the screaming terrorist from the which district in Minnesota?
It is really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made.
Power. The power. Oh, that Somali accent is really something to behold, isn't it? So let's see. Dictators are made by cutting the Constitution. Well, I would usually agree with that if that's what Trump was doing here. I'm sorry, but freezing any grants being distributed by a rogue executive branch entity that gives money for frivolous and un-American things overseas to our allies as well as to our enemies is not the same as cutting the Constitution. What is wrong with you? As with everything that Trump does, the left has completely gone unhinged and overreacted to this, which, by the way, makes most Americans do this. So most Americans probably wouldn't even seen Trump putting extra scrutiny and a freeze on grants given by this obscure federal agency, USAID. But now, because it's wall-to-wall coverage on the left, because people in Washington, D.C. and Manhattan who work in media think this is the most important thing. And why? Because their sources on Capitol Hill are telling them that it's the most important thing. So that's it. Wall-to-wall coverage. All right. So most Americans aren't paying attention, but then they'll flip through the channels and say, oh, they're talking about this. Okay. Well, what exactly is this thing that Trump is gutting? Wow. Is he really a dictator? Is he really? Is he really? And then they find out what it is. And they're like, what is wrong with you people? There's nothing. In fact, I don't want my money to pay for that. We can barely pay our bills in this country. We've got a deficit for as far as the eye can see. And it's not like this money is going to, equip our military or to keep Social Security checks flowing. It's to pay for a transgender opera in Serbia. And these people are pissed off about it. And they think this is a winning message. Hey, don't let me get in your way. Please, the more the merrier.
To all the employees at USAID, thank you, thank you, thank you. You keep America safe, and you help people all around the world. And I want to apologize. I want to say I'm sorry that you have to put up with this offensive bullshit coming out of this White House.
Wow. Have you ever seen that guy or any other Democrat saying such wonderful things to the men and women who wear our uniform? You keep America safe, and you keep us safe around the world with our... No, you have to be a government bureaucrat at USAID to get that kind of accolade from a Democrat. Think about what they're doing here. They're raising up the employee. I apologize to the employees of this obscure federal bureaucracy who can't spend tax dollars without any kind of oversight. That's what's happening here. They're outraged that these bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. aren't allowed to spend billions of your dollars without any kind of scrutiny or oversight by the man who was just elected president of the United States. These people work in the executive branch of government. He's the head of the executive branch of government. If he wants to say, yeah, we're going to put a hold on everything you're spending right now until we can get a handle on where the money's going, he has every right to do that. And every time a Democrat pokes his head out of the hole like Puxatawny Phil to start screaming bloody murder about it, they're actually helping Trump win even more. Speaking of groundhogs and other rodents of strange description, here's Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate.
We also know this is just the beginning. If DOJ attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the Postal Service or the IRS or even the Social Security Administration. They could be next. Or maybe our national security agencies.
Wait, hold on. If they can get away with this, they might end up gutting the IRS. Don't threaten me with a good time, Chucky. Is that a promise? I'm going to hold you to that. Honestly, do they think that this is a winning argument? So they're all freaking out. That's members of Capitol Hill, members of the House, members of the Senate. So, of course, if they're freaking out, their pals in the media have to freak out. So enter Van Jones, who, you guessed it, is freaking out.
We could brag on Marco Rubio. I'd be happy to do it. But I'm going to tell you right now, people are going to die in very large numbers around the world who are expecting the United States to live up to our promises to get them medicine, to get them help. And when that happens, people are going to remember that. There are people right now who have HIV who are alive only because the United States is making sure of that. Donald Trump says, we don't care. You go die. That's the message from the United States government. It is the wrong message to be sending, and it opens up the door for China and other people say, at least we're a stable government who's not going to leave you out here to die. That's what this is not an abstract conversation for people around the world.
Wow. So people are dying to see the transgender opera in Serbia. Amazing. People are going to die without USAID. So again, you've never heard of this thing. And yet now people are going to die if the funds are frozen on it. People started acting hysterically, the employees, when they found out that the grants are freezing and there's scrutiny on this. Joni Ernst, senator from Iowa, she was threatened because she asked to see the appropriation, or excuse me, the money that was being doled out by USAID. I almost said appropriations because that would make it constitutionally approved. Congress doesn't approve this stuff. They give money to USAID, and then USAID has the right to spend it however they want it, under the direction of the administration and the Secretary of State. That's what this administration and the Secretary of State wanted to get a handle on. And they went nuts. Enter Joy Reid. She also went nuts.
Begin tonight with a full-on crisis in our democracy, as federal workers are literally locked out of their offices while operatives working for a private citizen essentially take over our government. Their tactics include turning off our federal websites, deleting government-funded research that you, the taxpayer, paid for to impose speech codes, bullying news organizations by demanding interview transcripts, implementing an FBI purge, locking federal workers out of their computers, and even turning them away at their offices while giving themselves, without congressional or any other authorization, full access to the personal data of tens of millions of Americans, including Social Security recipients, FBI agents and officials, military and government contractors, and every single employee of the federal government. All of that data in private hands that you did not authorize, even if you voted for Donald Trump. This, as Trump installs unqualified minions at the heads of every federal agency, knowing that they wouldn't stop this even if they knew how. At least when he's not threatening multiple trade wars or vowing to launch a new age of American imperialism by colonizing the indigenous people of Greenland and the Panama Canal, all while congressional Democrats issue strongly worded letters, plus holding a press conference today, and congressional Republicans sit back and let the federal government they work for collapse all around them, while they occasionally beg Trump for tariff mercy for their states. If this were happening in any other country right now, I promise you, I'd be on the air calling it a coup.
Remember after Trump won the second time around, that was a great day, wasn't it? Back in November, a few months ago. Remember how Democrats and people in the media were like, okay, we're going to be different this time. We're not going to act like our hair's on fire. Every time Trump does something or tweets something or takes action, we're not going to act like it's the end of the democracy. It's the end of our constitutional republic, that it's a coup, that it's going to destroy our entire. We're not going to do that. Yeah, apparently they forgot all of that. This is amazing. If it weren't just complete and total bullshit, it would be absolutely phenomenal drama. But it's all lies. By the way, is it me or does Joy Reid have like a lazy eye thing going? Screen left. You're right. You see the eye? Why is that entire monologue? That eye's in a perpetual squint. You see it? What's going on there? Is it the earring? Maybe the earring on the left, which also acts as a theatrical counterweight if you're doing a national tour for the scenery. Maybe that one's a little larger than the one on the right. By the way, are those like Republican elephants inside those giant stage weights? I'm not sure. I'm getting distracted. Let's move on to a more normal looking person. Aha! Wow, I don't think either of those two match that description. It's Rachel Maddow and his twin brother, Jamie Raskin.
Can you describe your decision to go to USAID today? And actually, can you also describe what happened when you tried to go inside the building today?
Sure. Well, for me, it was easy, Rachel, because not only have I been trying to defend the Constitution and legality in America, as you know, for the last several years, but I have tens of thousands of federal workers who are my constituents in beautiful Montgomery County, Maryland. And what I see are all the telltale signs of a coup. A coup is a seizure of state power by unelected actors who work to take over the critical infrastructure of government outside of the rule of law. And that's what I see as going on right now. I mean, Elon Musk has basically tried to take control of the country's.
There you go. It's a coup. It's a coup. It's a coup. They've definitely decided that Elon Musk is going to be the bête noir. They've poll tested this. They've researched it with their little focus groups, and they've decided that he's the target. They're going to go after Elon Musk, and they're going to call it a coup, a coup, a coup. But here's the problem. Elon Musk has been appointed and empowered by the man who did just win the election, the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And so it's the opposite of a coup when the person that the people elected to be president then says, great, thank you. Let me put my team together. You, Mr. Musk, you're on my team. Here's what I want you to do. Go do it. And then he does it. See, that's not a coup. In fact, when people who work in the government in beautiful Montgomery County, Maryland, that Jamie Raskin represents, by the way, pretty expensive place to live. So those federal government workers that he represents, they're doing really, really well for themselves. When those people who work for the government as employees of the executive branch decide that if their actions and work is being scrutinized, that if the money that they're spending, tax dollars that they're spending at will on their own whim, is suddenly going to be frozen for scrutiny by the team that just won the election, and they think they're above that, they think that they can go ahead and do whatever they want with their jobs and they're untouchable, and they can spend tax dollars however they want around the world at any time without the president and his team having any oversight to it, they're the ones who are engaged in a coup. By definition, if we really want to define coup. And I've responded to these idiots as much as I care to. I'm done with them because I've got this guy to drop the final hammer and have the final word. Senator Kennedy, please wrap this up, will you?
It's kind of cool having a president again. Let me try to put all this in context for you. I like omelets. I mean, I really like omelets. I could eat an omelet at every meal. I like omelets better than sex. Not really, but you get the point. I like omelets. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Now, President Trump ran for office saying, I'm going to review every single penny in the federal budget. Now, how are you going to review the spending in the federal budget without reviewing the spending? And that's what Mr. Musk is doing. Now, many of my Democratic colleagues and some of the tofu-eating wokarati at the USAID are screaming like they're part of a prison riot because they don't want us reviewing the spending. But that's all Mr. Musk is doing, and he's finding some pretty interesting stuff. To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow. And really, here's what's going on. For 4 years under President Biden, the people in charge ask one simple question. Who needs to pay more in taxes? Who needs to pay more in taxes? Well, that's not the question that the Republicans and President Trump are going to ask. Our question is, what the hell happened to the money? And that's all that's going on. If you notice, my Democratic colleagues and the USAID officials, they're not defending the spending. All they're talking about is process. Oh, it's an insurrection. And Elon Musk doesn't have the authority. Well, sure he has the authority. The president gave it to him. And all he's doing is looking at the spending, just what the president said he was going to appoint Musk to do. Here's what I hope Rubio and Musk do. I would put together all this absurd spending into a booklet. I'd call a press conference, and in front of God and country and the corporate media and the USAID folks and my Democratic colleagues, I'd go over it, item by item by item, every bit of it. The DEI comic books, the transgender operas, the funding of gain of function research. I'd go over every bit of it and say, now, do you want to defend this? And they won't. They can't. It's kind of cool.
That says it all. That guy right there said it all. And there's nothing more to say about this issue. In fact, I'll just wrap it up by saying, of all the people who work in Washington, D.C., that's the guy right there, John Kennedy, that I would absolutely pay untold thousands of dollars to just sit and have a bourbon with. Shouldn't say that because the way these politicians raise money, he'll take me up on it. But he's a great guy, and he said it like it is. And that's exactly what's going on here. And I hope you're enjoying it, because it is nice to have a president again, and it's really nice to be winning. Something really important happened yesterday, this whole tariff face-off with Canada and Mexico. Spoiler alert, we won. Trump got what he wanted. But more than that, we all learned an incredibly valuable lesson. We learned an answer to a mystery that I think most American adults, taxpayers, have been asking themselves for as long as we've been adults and voting and paying our taxes. And that is, why can't the government function? Why can't the government get stuff done? Why can't the government solve problems? Why do we keep hearing promises after promises after promises about what they're going to do and the problems they're going to solve? And then at the end of the day, problem isn't really solved. Well, what we saw yesterday at the hands of our president, Donald Trump, finally tells the American people, this is how you get stuff done. This is how you solve problems. Mystery solved. Now we get it. Let's start with Caroline Levitt, who sort of explains exactly how things went down here on the whole tariff issue between Canada and Mexico.
We are 2 weeks in, and President Trump is already delivering big wins for the American people. Let's go through the facts. On the border, President Trump declared a national emergency, deployed the military, ended catch and release, and reinstated Remain in Mexico. And already, illegal crossings are down 95%. We are resuming construction of the border wall, and Colombia's president is now offering his own plane for deportation of illegal Colombian immigrants. On the economy and energy, President Trump unleashed American energy, declared a national energy emergency, and killed Joe Biden's radical electric vehicle mandate. Wall Street is booming, AI investments skyrocketed to $500 billion, and there's $20 billion flowing into U.S. data centers across our country. President Trump is restoring law and order. He labeled the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and he is deporting criminal illegal aliens, and he signed the Laken Riley Act into law. Draining the swamp, President Trump signed more than 45 executive orders. DEI has been purged from the government and our military, and lazy federal workers have been ordered back to the office. And when it comes to free speech and transparency, President Trump took 12 times more press questions than Joe Biden did in a week, reinstated 440 silenced journalists to the press room, and ended government censorship. Promises made, promises kept, and we're just getting started.
Now, that's phenomenally well put together and beautifully communicated by your White House press secretary. And in just in that minute and a half video, you saw an encapsulation of the last 2 weeks of achievements, of problems that we were told were insurmountable. Oh, yeah, the border is a problem. All these people are crossing the border, but what can we do about it? You know, hey, the border is secure. Oh, sure, people are flooding across, but we can't really do anything about it. What do you, oh, crime's a problem, I know, but what can we do about it? Oh, energy, my gosh, I know, it's incredible that we have to rely on these foreign countries for energy, but what can we do about it? There's nothing we can do about it. He did something about it. You use your executive powers, you go in, you have a mandate to fix something, you have the will to fix something, and you fix it. And It's done. I mean, this is remarkable. I don't remember seeing this in my lifetime. That we're going to get to the tariff thing in a minute, and how that's the perfect microcosm of what Trump was able to achieve. But let's get to this a little bit more. Caroline Levitt also appeared on Fox to sort of elaborate on this.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it, because President Trump is signing executive order after executive order, delivering on promise after promise, and implementing fundamental change of our bloated bureaucracy and our corrupt government here in Washington, D.C. He was given a once-in-a-generation mandate by the American people to govern and to fundamentally transform Washington, and that's exactly what he is doing. And we finally, after 4 years of chaos and mayhem and apologizing for America, have a president again in the Oval Office who is standing up for America. And this is what it looks like when you have a leader of our great nation who uses the leverage of the United States, who understands that since our nation's founding, we have been viewed as that shining light on the hill. We have been viewed, rightfully so, as the best, proudest country in the world. And President Trump is not afraid to say that or to use that for the American people's benefit. And that's why you have seen so many countries around the world in just a matter of 2 weeks cave to President Trump's demands. In the past 24 hours, you have Canada and Mexico agreeing to help secure our southern and northern borders. And these tariffs that President Trump threatened to impose on both Canada and Mexico, and they were sign, seal, deliver, I may add, those were retaliatory tariffs for the last 4 years of treatment by Canada and Mexico of our nation. They have allowed an unprecedented wave of illegal deadly drugs and illegal criminals on our territorial borders. And President Trump said, enough is enough.
Here's the thing. It's just when you hear the litany of all the things that have been accomplished here, when she lays it out there like that, you reach this one undeniable conclusion as you watch this unfold. So let me get this straight. We can just do things, right? Like we have a problem. We have an idea of what we want to do to fix it. We want to solve the problem. So we just do it. We don't talk about it. We don't propose legislation for it. We don't debate about it. We just do it. We just do things. That's what we've done for the last 2 weeks. We've just been doing things. We're not used to that in this country. We're not used to a government functioning like this. You just heard Caroline Levitt talk about the tariffs. Let's talk about it. And I love the fact that she pointed out that these tariffs that were being proposed by President Trump on Mexico and Canada were not starting a trade war. They were a retaliation to the war that had already been waged on us. Answer me something. Why are we supposed to just sit back knowingly and allow the Mexican government in bed with drug cartels to do nothing about these criminal mob gangs operating freely on our border with their coyotes and their human smugglers and their drug smugglers and the human trafficking and the child trafficking and the pedophiles, utilizing cars, trucks, donkeys, human beings, children to transport drugs across our border? We know that it's happening. They know that it's happening. They are Mexican citizens who are violating Mexican law too, and the Mexican government's like, I don't know, we can't do anything about it. That's your problem. And then our government for the last 4 years has been like, what are you talking about? There's no problem. Everything's fine. The border's secure. Oh, I'm sorry. How many thousands of fentanyl deaths have we had to suffer in this country? Oh, I guess there is a problem. Wait a second. Oh, is there an election coming up? Yes, the fentanyl problem is a very real problem. And if you give me 4 more years, then I'll solve that fentanyl problem. That's the treadmill we were just on. Forgive the offensive Mexican accent. It came out of nowhere. Trump gets into office and he says, all right, number one, we're going to have our border patrol the border. We're going to make our border secure. We're not going to let people illegally cross here. Oh, they claim asylum? That's fine. You can claim asylum where you're standing, but you're not going to come here and claim asylum. And then have Immigration Customs Enforcement actually arrest people who have broken our laws and deport them. and have the Border Patrol do what they swore an oath to do and what they got the badge for in the first place after all their training, which is not to process paperwork for people who just violated the border, but to actually patrol the border and keep these bad guys at bay. All right, so we did that for the first 2 weeks. And then this week, Trump comes in and he says, so what's Mexico going to do here? Here, Mexico, I'd like you to put 10,000 people on the border. I want you to put 10,000 people to patrol your side of the border because these are your people who are doing this to us, right? We can control our side, but it would be a lot easier if you did something on your side. So 10,000, that's what we want. And Mexico says, screw you. And that's when they were reminded that it wasn't Joe Biden or Barack Obama in the Oval Office anymore. And so Donald Trump threatened 25% tariffs on all of their goods and did the same for Canada because, first of all, you have to treat both sides in the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement relatively equally. But also we've got a problem up in Canada as well. Both of our borders should be protected. All right. We're going to treat both of our border countries equally. And Mexico says, oh, no. We're not going to do anything for you. You want to tariff us? Fine, we'll tariff you. And that lasted about 3 hours. And then what happened? Well, somebody in Mexico City did the math. Somebody figured out exactly what would happen if we put that 25% tariff on all goods coming in from Mexico. And then Donald Trump quickly announced this on social media. Just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation, wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. Where was this for the last 4 years? Where was this? Well, see, this is my point. We can do things. We can actually do things. You figure out what you want to do. You figure out how you want to solve a problem. And then you say, okay, how are we going to get this done? And then you do it. And he just did it. Just like that. Whereas Biden gives speeches and Alejandro Mayorkas goes on George Stephanopoulos and he repeats his, hand-wringing talking points and lies left and right and just hopes the problem goes away. And meanwhile, your nephew is dying from a fentanyl overdose and nobody cares. And the next thing you know, Trump tweets a few things, rattles his saber a little bit, and Mexico's sending 10,000 soldiers to the border because we're just doing things. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1-month period during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. I think my favorite part of this whole thing, is Trump says, I'm going to levy a 25% tariff on you guys if you don't do this. And they say, no, screw you. We're not going to do it. 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 Okay, fine, we'll do it. And Trump's response is, okay, good. I'll put a 1-month pause on the tariffs. And in Mexico, they're like, what are you talking about 1-month pause? We said we're going to do what you wanted us to do. 1-month pause? No, get rid of the tariffs. He says, no, let's see what happens. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you perform. The tariffs will be in effect in 1 month unless you actually get shit done. There's something so amazing about seeing this all transpire. So then, of course, people in the media, I loved it. On MSNBC, you had Joe and Mika all morning yesterday. Chaos, there's chaos. We're going to have tariffs, so there's chaos. So we don't know. And literally during their show, there's like, this just in, Mexico has agreed to everything Donald Trump wanted. But then they said, yeah, but Canada's different. Canada's different. They're not going to do anything. Canada's holding firm. Canada, we got a problem with Canada. And, we get oil from Canada. That's going to be a problem. And we get lumber from Canada. That's going to be a problem. And when people find out how much their maple syrup's going to cost, this is going to be a big problem. Trump stepped in it again. It's over. It's over. And then yesterday afternoon, Justin Trudeau, social media. This is my favorite part. Trump has a conversation with Justin Trudeau and says, you know what, Justin, I could tweet this out, but like I did with Sheinbaum down in Mexico, but I'll tell you what, you tweet it. I want it to be in your voice with your name and your social media picture. You tweet to the world what you've just agreed to. And so he did. I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly, say it with me, 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. He goes on to talk about a Canada-U.S. joint task force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, money laundering, and then says proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. It seems easy. I think because it is easy. If you have leadership, if you have a goal, if you have a strategy, if you have a will, if you haven't worked in Washington for 50 years like Joe Biden had, if you actually have expectations of people, if you decide that, you know what, they elected us to do something, so let's do stuff. And finally, we're actually seeing stuff get done. Stuff that we've been told for years could never happen. And it's happened in 2 weeks. Trump then took to social media at the end of the day. Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying their families and communities all across the country. I just want to pause here. As I think everyone in this country at this point knows somebody, or they know somebody who knows somebody who has had a tragedy due to fentanyl. And it really is a tragedy. And we've been told, all the hand wringing, all the shrugging, it's like, oh, it's terrible. Thoughts and prayers, terrible. Can't do anything about it. We know where it's coming from. We know how it's getting here. We know what to do to stop it. And yet we did nothing. Can I just say, and I know I'm oversimplifying this, and I know that this might not do the trick. Okay. So I don't want to overpromise here. But if this does do the trick, if locking down our border in this way and getting cooperation from Mexico and Canada, why shouldn't we have cooperation from them? And if they actually work to shut down this border and actually imprison these drug cartels and stop them and stop the flow of fentanyl, and China is lurking there because a lot of this fentanyl, if not all of it, is coming from China. If this actually does the trick, and within the next 2 years, we see an incredible decrease in the number of fentanyl deaths, what a miracle. What an incredible miracle this would be. And another lesson that when we see problems, we can fix them. We can, Biden used to say this all the time at the end of the speech. There's nothing that we can't do. We are the United States of America. To him, it was a talking point. To Trump, it's actually an action item. That's right. There is nothing we can't do, but we got to do it. And he's doing it. Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan, and as per Prime Minister Trudeau, will be reinforcing the border with choppers, technology, personnel. So he sort of reiterates everything that Trudeau just said. And then he finishes, as president, it's my responsibility to ensure the safety of all Americans, and I'm doing just that. I'm very pleased with this initial outcome, and the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Fairness for all. So where's everybody who was screaming about the tariffs over the weekend? Where's everybody yesterday at the first half of the news cycle who were screaming about how these tariffs were going to ruin our economy and ruin the stock market, and they're never going to work, and this is the problem when you put somebody like Donald Trump in charge, and this is never going to work, and you should leave it to the professionals. And now the problem is solved, and he did it, and he fixed it. And where are they all? I'll answer my question. They've moved on to U.S. aid. Now they've said that that's a coup, and Elon Musk is a rogue foreign agent who's taking control of our government. And they just moved on to the next thing without any apologies, without any corrections, without saying, oh, I guess we got that one wrong. And all the geniuses out there who told us that tariffs are awful, tariffs are a nightmare, and tariffs won't work. And let's just be clear here. There were no tariffs on Mexico and Canada. What worked was not tariffs. What worked was the mere threat of tariffs. Charles Payne took some time to point that out.
We were told tariffs don't work, trade wars are lose-lose. What happened?
Well, we were told wrong. and that was the craziest part about all of this is you just go and check history. For instance, tariffs mean automatic inflation. Look at Smoot-Hawley. Well, go look at it. It was the greatest deflationary period of our time. In fact, that was the issue. Well, tariffs can hurt the economy. Look at the Roaring 20s. We had the Emergency Tariff Act of 1921, and we had the Ford and E. Macomber Act of 1922 that went all the way through 1930. The market up 500%. Go back to McKinley, the same thing. It's so ironic. Tariffs actually worked, and they worked very well. And believe me, when they talk about these extra 30 days, you wonder, okay, well, what's that about? You got to believe that President Trump, and he keeps dropping hints, would love to go for the whole shebang. Canada, the 51st state. We have Greenland, and we keep these tariffs on because we want to bring businesses back. We want to bring manufacturing back. We want to really, really secure long-term prosperity. A few years ago, when all the experts said China was going to pass America, what was the main reason for that? China plays the long game. We got to play the long game. You have people out there 1 hour into the tariffs already declaring us losers, right? So we've got to play a longer game, and the longer game is actually using our might while we have it.
That's right. And frankly, that's exactly what Donald Trump has done for the first 2 weeks of his presidency. Let's just summarize here and explain exactly what just happened. Starting with Caroline Leavitt and that incredible list of achievements in just 1 week with President Trump, including the Laken-Riley Act, which is the first bill that he signed into law with the new Republican majority in the House and the Senate with bipartisan support with Democrats, who now make it, deportable and illegal for somebody to stay in this country after committing a certain type of crime. I think it should be any crime. I'm sorry, you're in this country as our guest and you jaywalk, you're out of here. But nobody said that could get done either. Biden always used to do this too. Yeah, nobody said we could do it, but we got it done. No, nobody never said you can do it because you didn't do anything other than just pass more bills to spend more money. Anyone can do that in Washington, D.C. That's all they do. You look at what Donald Trump did, looking at very real problems with our border, with our military, with our energy policies, with gender issues in our schools, and on and on and on. He said he was going to fix it, and he fixed it. And he got stuff done because he put his mind to it. And he said, yeah, okay, what's stopping us from doing it? Nothing's stopping us from doing it. Let's do it. And we did it. And suddenly there's a mystery that's been looming over all of us for decades now. People who look at our federal government as ineffective and incompetent and dysfunctional. And we just keep spending good money after bad, trying to prop this government up, even though we continue to go into debt. And suddenly we think that they can't do anything. And this guy comes in and he just does things. The mystery is solved. How do you get things done with our federal government? How do you get things done in Washington, D.C. and actually fix problems? You elect the right kind of people, and then they get stuff done. They just do things. Wow. Let's hope this trend continues. People at the Federal Bureau of Investigation are very, very nervous that Kash Patel will become the new director, and it looks like he will be the new director. But even under the acting director right now, the new rules are being put in place, and people who were part of the FBI and they investigated Donald Trump for criminal wrongdoing, well, they've been sent their walking papers. Maybe it's me, but I think the president has a right to say, if you work at the FBI and you thought I was a criminal, I don't think I can trust you to carry out my agenda from this point forward. And so, of course, they should be fired. Also, anybody who was involved in the January 6th investigations are getting extra scrutiny as well, considering how those investigations were conducted. I was told, by the way, that was a pride and joy of the Department of Justice, that this is the greatest law enforcement endeavor the FBI has ever undertaken. So if you were part of the January 6th investigations, why aren't you proud of that? Why are you shy? Why are you reluctant to admit to the new boss that you actually participated in any of those investigations? I would think that you'd be standing on your desk in the office saying, you bet your ass I was part of the J6 investigations. Greatest moment in FBI history. I'm sorry, what? I should clean out the desk I'm standing on now? Oh, I see. Okay. Andrew McCabe, who was dismissed from the FBI under a cloud of suspicion and scandal, he's now, of course, a paid commentator on CNN, and he was very, very concerned about his brothers and sisters in the FBI.
This is totally unprecedented. FBI rank and file agents and analysts who make up the vast majority of the field offices who do the work of investigating these cases, of executing search warrants, of executing arrest warrants, doing surveillance, electronic surveillance, whatever it might be. Those people are never touched by the political winds that blow through every 4 years, nor should they be. They, as you said, they don't pick their work. They're assigned to the work that they do. The work they do is lawful. It's within FBI policies, and not doing the work is not really an option for them, right? They come to the FBI. Most of them come intending to stay for the entirety of their careers, 20 years or more, 20 years on the agent side, a little bit more for the support side. And so to be targeted in this way for termination potentially or retribution simply for doing their jobs on a major national security case is incomprehensible to them or anybody that knows the organization. I've talked.
Yeah, I'm a pause you there. I did notice I said that in a major national security case, because January 6th was a major case of national security. And understand the vast majority of people who were investigated, whose doors were broken down at 6 a.m. with people coming in and perp walking them out of the house. They were merely there. They didn't break anything. They didn't hurt anybody. They were just there. And their jobs are not being threatened as of now, but they are being asked if they participated in these investigations to voluntarily say that they did and what they did so that their behavior can be scrutinized, because I think it's fair to say that some people's civil rights were violated. And if you're an FBI agent and you were just following orders by investigating people, and in the course of that you violated their civil rights, well, I'm sorry. But you should be subject to some kind of disciplinary action. And if that means losing your job, yes, because are you really going to use the Nuremberg defense here? Hey, I had no choice. I was just following orders. Let me tell you something. If you're an FBI agent and that's your defense, I don't want you with a badge and a gun representing the United States of America and the Department of Justice. That's the last thing I want. I keep hearing, how we should be afraid of these new Nazis who are coming into power. Well, they're literally using a Nazi defense right now. I'm not saying they're Nazis. I'm saying they're using their defense. We had no choice. We were following orders. We were told to investigate these people, so we did. Wow. We have precautions put in place in this government. By the way, you just heard Andy McCabe make his case for these people. At no point did he say these were perfect investigations. Everything about these investigations were righteous and they should be proud of what they did. No, what he's saying is, hey, these people didn't have a choice. They're not allowed to pick and choose what they investigate and what they don't investigate. They were just following orders. That's a hell of a defense. Try that out. Let's see how that works. When there are civil rights violations and you're sued, the federal government is sued, the Justice Department and the FBI are sued for violating people's civil rights. Hey, well, maybe violations were made, but we were just following orders. That don't work, Andy. And he knows better. That's why his voice is so shaky. Have you noticed how scared he sounds? I think he should be.
Talked to more FBI people in the last 4 days than I did in the prior 4 years. As John has described it accurately, it is a place in utter disarray right now. People are worried about, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? If I lose, if you're anywhere in the middle of that career, not close to retirement, if you get fired, you're done.
Yeah. You know what else really disrupts you from being able to support your family and paying your bills beyond just getting fired? You're fired, you're done. You know what else sort of renders you done? Being arrested and jailed. Being arrested and detained without trial for months on end. That sort of puts a damper on you being able to pay your bills and support your family. Pal. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this. But this is the whole point. And that's what happened. And I'm sorry that that's uncomfortable for the Anderson Coopers of the world to confront. But the fact that we have this entire segment here where shaky-voiced Andy McCabe from the FBI is near tears because FBI agents have been asked if they participated in the January 6th investigations. That's all that's happened here. I'm sorry, you're acting like you've got something to be ashamed of, pal. They were just following orders, and you can't fire them because they've got bills to pay. Is not going to work, nor should it.
the end of your reputation, your ability to get a new job. You lose your pay, you lose your chance at a pension, you lose your health insurance. This is a moment of terror for these people. It is absolutely disgraceful that they are being put through this in the middle of some political gamesmanship or active retribution. They don't deserve to be treated this way. It's unlawful and it's disgusting.
Wow, it's disgusting. It's terror. It's political retribution. Again, can I describe what happened to people who walked through a door that was held open for them by Capitol police officers on January 6th at the Capitol building, greeted with smiles and nods and friendly conversation, and then they were arrested, they were detained, they were prosecuted? And do we think that was political retribution? Do we? I think we do. I'm not saying tit for tat. I'm not saying that this is vengeance. I'm not saying that if it was okay for them to do it to J6ers, then it's certainly okay, because it's not the same. That's not what they're being put through. It's not even close. And I don't think it's wrong for the president of the United States, who, by the way, campaigned saying that he was going to do just this and is in fact doing what he said he was going to do, for the president to say, yeah, I just pardoned all of the people who were prosecuted on January 6th because their civil rights were violated. We've had a lot of these convictions thrown out at the Supreme Court. There was a real problem with the way this was conducted. And if FBI agents went along with it and used the Nuremberg defense by saying they were just following orders, well, then we've got to question their character and whether they should continue to have the awesome power that we, the people, give them with our permission to carry that badge, carry that gun, and use deadly force against American citizens if they believe that they have the right to do so. You know, that's a pretty awesome responsibility as an FBI agent. And if you've got the kind of judgment that you went along with this kind of thing, well, I think you should be answering some questions. And that's all that's happening here. And the fact that Eddie McCabe is peeing his pants about it tells me that, well, they're on the right track. Which brings us to Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki is very concerned about this that's going on at the FBI and other aspects of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing with regard to the federal government and scrutinizing the way the executive branch has been run. So much so that she's decided to use some rather colorful language to describe how this is going down.
Because what's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government. There's no other way to describe it. It's happening clearly across our justice system, where just a few hours ago, a deadline passed for FBI employees to fill out a questionnaire detailing their involvement in January 6 cases. In other words, they were asked to fill out basically a loyalty test.
I love it. Basically a loyalty test. Did you participate in the January 6 investigations? What is this, a loyalty test? No, I think it's an IQ test, ma'am. You either did or you didn't. But if you think that's a loyalty test, then you failed the IQ portion of the exam. This has nothing to do with your IQ, or it has nothing to do with your loyalty. It has to do with whether you took part in the investigations or not. That's okay. Go ahead, Jen Psaki. Go ahead with your hostile takeover of the federal government.
Test. That comes after an unprecedented purge of the FBI on Friday night, when the Trump administration forced out top FBI career officials, multiple FBI field office leaders, and a number of DOJ prosecutors who worked on January 6th cases. Tonight, I'm going to talk to one of the prosecutors who was fired on Friday. His name is Jake Strubing. He was back at the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. this morning, where he was escorted to his office to pick up his things, drop off his computer, his phone, and his credentials. This is going to be his first interview since he was fired. He has a lot to say, and he's going to be at this table with me in just a moment.
Yeah. All right. Listen, let's just end this here. Can I just say, anybody who has had to suffer in the Biden economy or the COVID lockdowns over the course of the last several years, you probably had to experience that too, dropping off your laptop and your office key, cleaning out your desk and heading to the door. But I don't remember NBC News with their little peacock in the corner of the screen doing a sob story about you. This happens, okay? Sorry, it happens. But if I can just explain something to Jen Psaki and other members of the media in this town, well, in Washington, D.C., Democrats who are all screaming hysterically about what's going on here, and frankly, some deep state aficionados who call themselves Republicans, let me explain something to you. I learned this many years ago. You should have learned it, especially if you continue to work in the U.S. government or in a close proximity there too. If you work in the executive branch of government, like say in the Justice Department or the EPA or the Department of Agriculture, or any one of those federal bureaucracies, you work for the executive branch. The head of the executive branch is the president of the United States. He's the boss. He's the chairman. He's the CEO. You work for him and the people he assigns as his senior, upper, and middle management. You work for them. They're allowed to say that your services are no longer needed here. They're allowed to fire you. Sorry, that's just how things work in the real world. All of us have a boss, and all of us work for someone, and they ultimately can fire us if it turns out we're not quite fitting in with the team. But let me be clear. For everyone saying that what Trump is doing is a hostile takeover of the government or a coup or some sort of chaos and unprecedented, let's be clear. If you work in the executive branch of government, you work for the president, not the other way around. He doesn't work for you. You're not the captain now. He is. And if he says you're done here, you're done here. Thank you very much. All right. Good show, good show, good show. Thank you, guys. Hey, Tommy Radcliffe, thanks for that $5 super chat. I've halted paying my FHA mortgage till all the money Prince Wally spent without proper approval is worked out by Doge plus the phones. Prince Wally. Kevin, help me out. Prince Wally.
It's a mystery to me.
All right. I don't know if you should stop paying your FHA mortgage, though, Tommy. There might be a foreclosure. Didn't do this unless you've been through 3 hurricanes. No. FEMA. Wally was, I think, wasn't that the person in charge of FEMA? They've reduced your SSDI by $185 and cut my Medicare mortgage coverage. Yeah, but Tommy, didn't Trump just free up some more FEMA funds for you guys? I'm really sorry about that. I really am sorry that you're still going through that. And hopefully you can get some action there. But I don't blame you, actually. That I think would be a good reason. And when they come down on you, you should be able to make a point to your FHA mortgage holder. Thank you for that. Thank you for watching, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, brother. All right, are we good, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
I haven't plugged my book.
Now's your time.
Is it? You promise? Hey, everybody, grab my book. Shameless Liars. How Trump defeated the legacy media and made them irrelevant. It's still charging up the charts right now at Amazon, going strong. And tweet out a picture of it when you get it. It's a beautiful looking book. I haven't seen the paperback yet. I have to order a paper. I have hardcovers, and I'm going to be doing signed copies pretty soon. I'm just not home. I've been away from home for like the entire. Well, I guess it's only been a week that the book's been out, but I've been away from home for like 10 or 11 days, taking care of some family business on the West Coast. So I'm going to get back home by this weekend, and then I'll be able to see the books. But it looks beautiful. Great cover artwork, and I'm getting great reactions to it. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate you watching. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.